He woke up disoriented, his thoughts in a fog. As far as he could tell, he was lying on one of the stiff couches in the lobby. His dad, along with some other adults he didn't recognize, were staring down at him. The ceiling lights glared above him. He had to blink and look away. "Dan?" There was both concern and relief in his father's voice. "Are you okay?" Daniel blinked again. It was all coming back to him now. Entering the church, approaching the casket, seeing Emily. "She spoke to you. She called you by name." "Are you okay?" his father repeated. "Yeah," he nodded. Is she..." "Who?" "Emily. Is she..." Man, this was going to sound weird. "Is she really dead?" His dad nodded somberly. "We can talk about this more at home, all right?" "So she..." "Yes." The vision of Emily in the casket, the sight of the water pouring from her mouth, the gurgling sound of her voice, the firm grip of her hand on his arm, all of it had seemed so real. How could any of that have happened if she were dead? But it couldn't have been real either. Emily had drowned, and she was dead, and dead people don't open their eyes, don't sit up in their coffins, don't talk to you, and they certainly don't reach over and grab your arm. You're just seeing things. That's all it is. Your mind is playing tricks on you. But it had seemed just as real as this conversation he was having with his dad. He was still dizzy, and it took a little effort to sit up. A couple of people who were standing beside his dad eased away. Then the others did as well, until it was only Daniel and his father. "You fainted," his dad told him, as if he were anticipating a question that, in truth, Daniel hadn't even been intending to ask. "I've never fainted before." "Was it the headache?" "I don't know." Daniel's dad helped him to his feet, and amid the stares and anxious glances of some of his classmates, they left the church. "I guess it was the shock," his dad said. "You know, of seeing her like that." "I guess it was." On the drive home, Daniel tried to shake what had happened from his mind, tried to convince himself that he had not seen what he had, that he had not heard Emily tell him that Trevor was in the car, that a dead girl had not asked him to find her glasses. Now that he thought about it, in the photos at the front of the church, she'd been wearing a pair of glasses, and in school, when he'd seen her, she'd had them on then as well. He didn't know if it was typical to put people's glasses on them when they were lying in their caskets. It seemed like an odd thing to do, but it was possible that it happened if maybe someone wore glasses all the time and the funeral home staff was trying to make them look as normal as possible. But in this case, no one would have found Emily's glasses anyway. After all, she drowned, and it seemed pretty unlikely that she would have somehow been able to keep her glasses on while the currents in the lake dragged her down and carried her into that inlet where her body was found. They arrived home, and Daniel headed to his room. He'd never known what to believe about ghosts. On the one hand, the supernatural, or the paranormal, whatever term you wanted to use, wasn't something he could easily accept. He believed science would eventually wrap its arms around those things and come up with an explanation that made sense. On the other hand, lots of people really did see unexplainable things, and there was no discounting what they experienced. Visions, hauntings, strange noises in the night, doors or windows slamming on their own, patches of freezing air where nothing cold should be. Before today, he could barely imagine what that was like. But was it Emily's ghost he had seen? He really couldn't come up with any other explanation. Daniel removed his tie, the only one he owned, and hung it in his closet. But even if it had been Emily's ghost, why would it ask him to find her glasses? Daniel had seen his share of scary movies and heard his share of ghost stories around campfires, especially from his friend Kyle. According to what people said, ghosts, if they were real at all, were sometimes harmless, benevolent even, bringing help to the living. Sometimes they were seeking justice or a place to find their final rest, or the opportunity to finally slip out of limbo and into eternity. But sometimes they were vengeful.